My wife's new spiritual advisor convinced her that our marriage is cursed, and now she wants me to participate in a $50,000 cleansing ritual. My wife Sarah and I have been married for over 10 years, and we've had our fair share of ups and downs. We've always been supportive of each other, even when we didn't see eye to eye. Recently, Sarah has become increasingly interested in spirituality and the like. At first, I was skeptical, but she seemed really into it, and it made her happy, so I supported her. She started attending seminars, buying crystals, and even started seeing a spiritual advisor. I thought it was a bit weird, but I didn't think much of it. That was until she came home one day and told me that our marriage was cursed. Apparently, her spiritual advisor, Nicholas, had done some sort of reading and determined that our marriage was being held back by some kind of negative energy. Sarah was completely convinced, and she started telling me all about how we needed to cleanse ourselves of this energy in order to move forward. She told me that Nicholas had recommended a special cleansing ritual that would cost $50,000. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. $50,000 is a small fortune, and I had no idea how Nicholas had convinced her that this was necessary. I tried to talk to her about it, but she just kept telling me that I didn't understand, that I needed to have faith. I felt like she was being manipulated by this Nicholas guy, and I didn't know how to get through to her. I decided to do some research on Nicholas and his spiritual practices. From what I found, he seemed like a bit of a scam artist, preying on vulnerable people and taking their money. I didn't want to accuse Sarah of being naive, but I couldn't just sit back and let her throw away our money on some fake ritual. I decided to have a calm and rational conversation with her, hoping that I could bring her back to reality. Update 1. I had a long conversation with Sarah last night, trying to explain my concerns about Nicholas and the ritual. I told her that I understood that she wanted to believe in something, but I couldn't just blindly follow along with this. I asked her to think about all the other times she had gotten caught up in some new fad or trend, only to lose interest later. I reminded her of the time she spent thousands of dollars on a juice cleanse, only to realize that it was just a bunch of nonsense. I thought that by reminding her of her past experiences, she would start to see the pattern and realize that this was just another one of those things. But instead, she just got defensive and told me that I was closed-minded and didn't understand the spiritual world. She said that I was just jealous because I wasn't as enlightened as she was. I felt like I was talking to a different person, and it scared me. I realized that I needed to take a different approach if I was going to get through to her. I decided to ask her more about Nicholas and his qualifications. I asked her if she had done any research on him, if she knew anything about his background or his experience. She told me that she had met him at a seminar and that he had a really good energy about him. She said that she had felt a connection with him and that she trusted him. I asked her if she had talked to anyone else who had worked with him, if she had any references or anything. She got quiet and then told me that she hadn't really talked to anyone else about it. She said that Nicholas had told her that she was special, that she had a special gift, and that he was the only one who could help her unlock it. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the extent of Nicholas's manipulation. Update 2. I've been doing some more research on Nicholas, and what I've found is disturbing. It seems that he has a history of targeting vulnerable women, using his charm and charisma to gain their trust. He promises them the world, telling them that they have special gifts and that he can help them unlock their true potential. But in reality, he's just taking their money and using them for his own gain. I found a bunch of reviews online from women who had worked with him, and they all told similar stories. They said that he was charming at first, but eventually they realized that he was just using them. They said that he would make them feel special, like they were the only ones who truly understood him. But when they started to question him or doubt him, he would turn on them, telling them that they were closed-minded or that they didn't trust him enough. I realized that Sarah was following the same pattern, and it broke my heart. I felt like I was losing her, like she was slipping away from me, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. I decided to confront Nicholas, to tell him to leave my wife alone. I found his office and went there, determined to put an end to this nonsense. But when I got there, he wasn't alone. Sarah was with him, sitting in a chair, looking like she was in a trance. Nicholas smiled at me, telling me that I was just in time for their session. He said that Sarah was making great progress, that she was really unlocking her true potential. I felt a surge of anger, but I tried to keep my cool. I told him that I knew what he was doing, that I knew he was manipulating Sarah. I told him to leave her alone, to stop taking our money. He just laughed, telling me that I was jealous. He said that I was threatened by his relationship with Sarah, that I was afraid of losing her. I realized that he was right, that I was afraid of losing her, but I knew that I had to be strong, that I had to fight for our marriage. Update 3. It's been a few days since I confronted Nicholas, and things have been tense between Sarah and me. She's still seeing him, still believing in his nonsense. I've tried to talk to her, to reason with her, but she just won't listen. I've started to feel like I'm losing her, like she's slipping away from me, and I don't know how to get her back. I've been doing some research on how to deal with people who are in cults or under the influence of manipulative leaders. I've learned that it's not easy, that it takes time and patience. I've also learned that I need to be careful, that I don't want to push her further away. I've decided to take a step back, to give her some space. I've told her that I love her, that I'm here for her, but that I need her to understand that I don't believe in Nicholas or his ritual. I've told her that I'm willing to support her, to help her in any way that I can, but that I need her to be rational, to think critically. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm determined to fight for our marriage. I'm determined to bring Sarah back to reality, to help her see the truth. I just hope that it's not too late, that she's not too far gone. I'll keep updating as things progress. Thanks for reading and for your support.
I helped raise my niece for 10 years while my sister was getting clean. Now she's demanding full custody and saying I traumatized her daughter with too much stability. I'm at a loss for what to do, and I'm hoping someone can offer some guidance or just a listening ear. My sister has been struggling with addiction for as long as I can remember. She's been in and out of rehab, had multiple relapses, and has spent time in jail. Despite all of this, she's always been a loving mother to her daughter, my niece, who is now 10 years old. When my niece was just a baby, my sister was going through a particularly rough patch, and I offered to help take care of her. My sister was hesitant at first, but eventually accepted my help. Over time, my role in my niece's life grew, and I became a primary caregiver for her. I've been there for every bedtime, every birthday, every school event, and every milestone. I've helped with homework, taken her to doctor's appointments, and been a constant presence in her life. My sister would come and go, sometimes staying with us for a while, but often disappearing for weeks or months at a time. I've always been careful to keep the lines of communication open with my sister, and I've never tried to undermine her authority as a mother. I've always made sure to include her in important decisions and to keep her updated on my niece's life. Fast forward to the present, and my sister has been clean for about a year now. She's been attending meetings, seeing a therapist, and has been working hard to get her life back on track. I'm so proud of her for taking these steps, and I've been happy to continue supporting her and my niece in any way that I can. But recently, my sister has started making demands for full custody of my niece. She's saying that I've traumatized my niece by providing too much stability and routine in her life. She claims that my niece is too attached to me and that I've somehow damaged her ability to form healthy relationships with others. I'm shocked and hurt by these accusations. I've always put my niece's needs first and have done my best to provide a loving and nurturing environment for her. I've worked hard to ensure that she feels safe and supported, and I've been careful to maintain a sense of normalcy in her life, despite the challenges that her mother's addiction has presented. I've talked to my niece about her feelings, and she's told me that she loves her mom, but she's also scared of her. She's scared of the way her mom's addiction makes her feel, and she's scared of the uncertainty that comes with it. She's told me that she feels safe with me and that she doesn't want to leave my care. I'm not sure what to do. Part of me wants to fight for custody of my niece, but another part of me is worried about the impact that a custody battle could have on her. I don't want to put her through any more trauma or stress than she's already experienced. At the same time, I feel like I have a right to be a part of my niece's life and to continue providing for her in the way that I have been. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know that I need to prioritize my niece's well-being above all else. Update 1. I just had a conversation with my sister, and it was incredibly difficult. She's still insisting that I've traumatized my niece and that she needs to take full custody. She's become very aggressive and confrontational, and it's clear that she's not willing to listen to my perspective. I've tried to explain to her that I've only ever had my niece's best interests at heart, but she's not having it. I'm starting to feel like I'm in a nightmare. I don't know how to navigate this situation or how to protect my niece from the harm that my sister's addiction could cause. I've decided to seek out the advice of a therapist, both for myself and for my niece. I hope that with some professional guidance, we can find a way to move forward that prioritizes my niece's well-being. Update 2. I've been seeing a therapist for the past few weeks, and it's been incredibly helpful. She's given me some great advice on how to navigate this situation, and how to prioritize my niece's needs. One of the most important things she's taught me is the importance of setting boundaries with my sister. I've always been so focused on helping my sister and supporting her through her addiction, but now I realize that I need to prioritize my own needs and the needs of my niece. I've started to set some boundaries with my sister, and it's not been easy. She's become very angry and resentful, but I know that this is what's best for my niece. I've also started to look into the possibility of seeking temporary custody of my niece. I know that this is a big step, but I feel like it's necessary to protect her from the harm that my sister's addiction could cause. I'm scared of what the future holds, but I'm determined to do what's best for my niece. Update 3. I just received a call from my sister's lawyer informing me that she's filed for full custody of my niece. I'm devastated. I knew that this was a possibility, but I'm still not prepared for the reality of it. I've been trying to stay strong for my niece, but it's getting harder and harder. I've started to feel like I'm losing my sense of purpose and identity. I've dedicated the past 10 years of my life to raising my niece and providing for her, and now it feels like it's all being taken away from me. I'm trying to stay focused on what's best for my niece, but it's hard not to take this personally. I feel like I'm being punished for trying to do the right thing. I've decided to hire a lawyer and fight for custody of my niece. I know that it won't be easy, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect her and ensure that she's provided for. I'm scared of what the future holds, but I'm determined to do what's best for my niece. Update 4. The custody battle has been ongoing for months now, and it's taking a huge toll on all of us. My niece is struggling in school, and her behavior has become more erratic. She's always been a happy and well-adjusted kid, but now she's anxious and withdrawn. I'm trying to stay strong for her, but it's getting harder and harder. My sister's addiction has reared its ugly head again, and she's become increasingly unstable. She's shown up to court hearings late, or not at all, and she's failed to comply with the court's orders. It's clear that she's not capable of providing a stable and loving environment for my niece, but the court system is slow to act. I'm feeling frustrated and helpless, and I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. I've started to wonder if I've made a mistake by fighting for custody. Maybe I should just let my sister have full custody and focus on being a supportive aunt. But then I think about all of the times my niece has come to me in tears, scared of her mom's behavior, and I know that I have to keep fighting. I have to be a voice for my niece, even if it's hard. Update 5. I just received a call from the court, informing me that the custody hearing has been scheduled for next week. I'm nervous and scared, but I'm also determined. I know that this is my chance to make my case for why I should have custody of my niece, and I'm not going to let it slip away. I've been preparing for weeks, gathering evidence and testimony from experts, and I feel confident that I have a strong case. But despite all of my preparations, I'm still scared of what the outcome could be. What if the court decides to grant my sister full custody? What if my niece is taken away from me and I'm left with nothing? I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the present moment, but it's hard not to worry about the future. I just want what's best for my niece, and I hope that the court will see things the same way. I'll update again after the hearing and let you all know what happens. Update 6. The custody hearing was yesterday, and it was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. I had to sit in a crowded courtroom and listen to my sister's lawyer try to tear me down. They accused me of being selfish, of trying to undermine my sister's authority as a mother. They said that I was trying to replace my sister, to be the real mother to my niece. It was hard to listen to, but I tried to stay calm and focused. When it was my turn to speak, I poured my heart out to the judge. I told her about all of the times I'd been there for my niece, about all of the sacrifices I'd made for her. I told her about my sister's addiction, and about the instability that it had brought into our lives. I begged the judge to consider what was best for my niece, to prioritize her needs above all else. The judge listened attentively, and when I was finished, she thanked me for my testimony. She told me that she would take everything into consideration, and that she would make a decision that was in the best interests of my niece. I left the courtroom feeling hopeful, but also scared. I know that the judge's decision could go either way, and that my niece's future is hanging in the balance. I just want what's best for her, and I hope that the judge will see things the same way. I'll update again when I have more news. My husband's online gaming team turned out to be a group of professional con artists, and now they're blackmailing him with fake screenshots. My husband, Arthur, has always been an avid gamer, and about 6 months ago, he joined an online gaming team. He was thrilled to have found a group of like-minded individuals who shared his passion for gaming. The team, which went by the name Epic Gamers, was very active, and they would often participate in online tournaments and competitions. At first, I was happy to see Arthur so enthusiastic about something, and I even encouraged him to pursue his hobby. However, as time went on, I started to notice that Arthur was spending an increasing amount of time playing games with his team, often until the early hours of the morning. I would sometimes wake up to find him still playing, and when I would ask him about it, he would just tell me that they were in the middle of a crucial game and that he couldn't leave. I was starting to get a little worried, but Arthur assured me that everything was fine and that he was just having fun. One day, I decided to do some research on the team and its members. I created a fake social media profile and started to dig deeper into their online activities. What I found shocked me. It turned out that the team was not just a group of gamers, but a group of professional con artists. They had been involved in several online scams, including phishing and identity theft. I couldn't believe that my husband had unknowingly gotten himself mixed up with such a group. I immediately confronted Arthur, but he just brushed it off, telling me that I was being paranoid and that the team was just a group of friends who liked to play games together. He assured me that he had never been involved in any of their allegedly shady activities and that he was just a gamer. But I knew that I had to do something. I decided to keep a close eye on Arthur's online activities, monitoring his interactions with the team and looking for any signs of suspicious behavior. It wasn't long before I noticed that Arthur was receiving strange messages from one of the team members, a guy who went by the name of Avery. The messages were always cryptic, but they seemed to be discussing something in code. I couldn't help but feel that something was off, and I started to get a little nervous. Then, one day, Arthur came to me in a panic. He told me that Avery had sent him a message, threatening to reveal some fake screenshots that would ruin his reputation if he didn't pay him a large sum of money. Arthur was devastated, and I could see the fear in his eyes. He told me that he had no idea what Avery was talking about, but he knew that he had to do something. I immediately took matters into my own hands, telling Arthur that we would get to the bottom of this together. I contacted a friend of mine who is a cybersecurity expert, and he agreed to help us investigate the situation. We started by analyzing the messages that Arthur had received from Avery, looking for any clues that might reveal the identity of the blackmailer. We also decided to set up a trap, creating a fake online profile that would allow us to gather more information about the team and its activities. Update 1. It's been a week since we started our investigation, and we've made some significant progress. We've managed to gather a lot of information about the team and its members, including their real names and addresses. We've also discovered that they have been involved in several high-profile scams, including a recent phishing attack that netted them thousands of dollars. But the most shocking revelation came when we discovered that Avery, the guy who has been blackmailing Arthur, is actually a woman named Kelsey. She's a master manipulator, and she has a reputation for using her charm and beauty to get what she wants. We've been monitoring her online activities, and we've noticed that she's been using several different personas to scam people. We're not sure how she's managed to evade the authorities for so long, but we're determined to bring her down. Arthur is still being blackmailed, and Kelsey is demanding more and more money from him. We're trying to stay one step ahead of her, but it's getting increasingly difficult. We've had to change our phone numbers and email addresses, and we're being very careful about who we trust. I'm starting to feel like we're in a real-life thriller, and I'm not sure how much longer we can keep this up. Update 2. It's been another week, and the situation has escalated. Kelsey has increased her demands, and she's now threatening to release the fake screenshots to the public if Arthur doesn't pay her. We've tried to reason with her, but she's not listening. We've also gone to the authorities, but they seem to be dragging their feet. They're telling us that they need more evidence before they can take any action, but we're running out of time. Arthur is at his wit's end, and I'm not sure how much longer he can take this. He's started to doubt himself, and he's wondering if he's somehow to blame for all of this. I've tried to reassure him, but it's hard to see him like this. We've decided to take matters into our own hands, and we're going to try and gather more evidence. We've set up a sting operation, and we're hoping to catch Kelsey in the act. It's a risk, but we feel like we have no other choice. We're also trying to spread the word about Kelsey and her team, hoping to warn others about their scam. It's a difficult time, but we're trying to stay strong. Update 3. It's been a few days since we set up the sting operation, and we've finally got the evidence we need. We managed to catch Kelsey in the act, and we've recorded the whole conversation. We've gone to the authorities with the evidence, and they've finally agreed to take action. Kelsey has been arrested, and she's facing charges for blackmail and identity theft. Arthur is finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, and we're starting to rebuild our lives. It's been a long and difficult journey, but we've made it through. We've learned a lot about the dangers of online scams, and we're going to be much more careful in the future. We're also going to be more aware of our online activities, making sure that we're not leaving ourselves open to attack. It's been a tough lesson to learn, but we're grateful to have come out the other side. We're now focusing on healing and moving forward, and we're excited to see what the future holds.
My sister convinced our grandfather to change his will on his deathbed, recording the conversation, but conveniently losing the part where he was lucid. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened over the past few weeks, and I'm not sure where to start. My grandfather, who I loved dearly, passed away recently after a long battle with cancer. He was an incredible man, always kind and generous to those around him. As his health began to decline, our family made sure to spend as much time with him as possible, cherishing every moment we had left. My sister, Vivian, and I were especially close to him, and we both did our best to care for him during his final days. However, I've recently discovered that Vivian took advantage of grandfather's vulnerable state and manipulated him into changing his will. I'm not sure how to feel about this or what to do next. I've always known that Vivian could be selfish at times, but I never thought she was capable of something like this. The worst part is that she recorded the conversation, but claims to have lost the part where grandfather was lucid and able to make informed decisions. I'm not buying it, and I'm determined to get to the bottom of this. I remember the day that grandfather told us he wanted to update his will. He had been thinking about it for a while and wanted to make sure that his assets were divided fairly among his loved ones. Vivian and I were both present, and we listened as he explained his wishes. He wanted to leave his house to my parents, as they had always been his primary caregivers. He also wanted to leave a significant amount of money to me and Vivian to help us with our futures. However, he made it clear that the majority of his estate should go to my parents, as they had sacrificed so much to care for him. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, when grandfather's health took a turn for the worse. Vivian and I were both by his side, trying to comfort him as much as possible. I remember that she spent a lot of time with him, talking to him and trying to lift his spirits. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I realized that she was likely manipulating him, trying to get him to change his will in her favor. The day before grandfather passed away, Vivian came to me with a recording device in her hand. She told me that grandfather had asked to speak with her and that he wanted to update his will again. I was skeptical, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I just assumed that grandfather wanted to make some final changes and that Vivian was simply helping him to do so. It wasn't until after grandfather's funeral, when we were all gathered at the lawyer's office to read his will, that I realized what had happened. The will that was read was not the one that grandfather had originally intended. Instead, it left the majority of his estate to Vivian, with a much smaller amount going to me and my parents. I was shocked and outraged, and I immediately confronted Vivian about what had happened. She just smiled and told me that grandfather had changed his mind and that she had simply been carrying out his wishes. I didn't believe her, and I demanded to see the recording that she had made. That's when she told me that she had lost the part of the conversation where grandfather was lucid, and that the only recording she had was of him mumbling and barely able to speak. I'm not buying it, and I'm determined to get to the bottom of this. I've hired a lawyer, and we're going to investigate this further. I want to know what really happened, and I want to make sure that grandfather's wishes are respected. Update 1. I've been doing some digging, and I've discovered that Vivian has a history of manipulating people to get what she wants. I've spoken to some of our relatives, and they've told me that she's been known to use guilt and coercion to get people to do what she wants. I'm starting to realize that I wasn't the only one who was blind to her tactics. I've also found some discrepancies in the recording that Vivian made. There are some strange noises and pauses, which make me think that she may have edited the recording to make it sound like grandfather was more out of it than he actually was. I've sent the recording to a forensic expert, and they're going to analyze it to see if they can find any evidence of tampering. I'm also going to try to find out more about the conversation that Vivian had with grandfather. I want to know what was said and what kind of state grandfather was in when he allegedly changed his will. I've spoken to the nurse who was caring for grandfather at the time, and she's agreed to meet with me to discuss what she saw. I'm hoping that she'll be able to provide some insight into what happened and whether or not grandfather was truly capable of making informed decisions. Update 2. I've just met with the nurse, and what she told me was shocking. According to her, grandfather was in a lot of pain and discomfort during his final days. He was also heavily medicated, which would have affected his ability to think clearly. However, The nurse also said that grandfather had moments of lucidity where he was able to think and communicate clearly. She remembers that Vivian was with him during one of these moments and that they had a conversation that seemed intense and emotional. The nurse didn't think much of it at the time, but now she's not so sure. She told me that she's seen cases where family members have taken advantage of patients who are vulnerable, and she's worried that something similar may have happened with grandfather. I've also received the results of the forensic analysis, and they're disturbing. The expert found evidence of tampering on the recording, which suggests that Vivian may have edited it to make it sound like grandfather was more out of it than he actually was. I'm going to confront Vivian with this evidence, and I'm going to demand that she tell me the truth about what happened. I'm not going to let her get away with this, and I'm going to make sure that grandfather's wishes are respected. Update 3. I've just confronted Vivian with the evidence, and she's finally cracked. She admitted to manipulating grandfather and to editing the recording to make it sound like he was more out of it than he actually was. She told me that she was desperate for the money and that she didn't care who she hurt to get it. I'm shocked and disgusted by her actions, and I'm going to make sure that she pays for what she's done. I've called the police, and they're going to investigate Vivian for elder abuse and fraud. I'm also going to make sure that grandfather's will is contested and that his original wishes are carried out. It's been a long and difficult journey, but I'm finally going to get justice for grandfather. I'm just sorry that it had to come to this and that Vivian's actions have caused so much pain and suffering. I'm going to make sure that she never hurts anyone like this again and that grandfather's memory is respected and honored.